Our guy here, Barry, is looking at this Buffalo game because of a couple reasons here. So Buffalo's been pretty much the class of the MAC. Not that they've won all the championships, but they've been in contention or won the championship for 3 or 4 consecutive years now. So they've been the class of the league. In addition to that, Josh had just mentioned trap game. Well, definition of a trap game, there's a few different definitions, and one would be, bam, Buffalo before Oklahoma. So Barry is concerned about those Buffalo Bulls.
It's a valid concern. I mean, it's another team that maybe is in a lower conference that performs very well in a lower conference. They've got good players who, you could probably cherry pick, 4 or 5 guys on each side of their ball and on special teams that would plug right into us and wouldn't really miss a beat. They just happen to be at that level coming out of high school, and that's where they're at. So if they put together a good game and we let them hang around, if they're still there in the mid-third quarter, then it's a fight. It's anybody's game. So that's a game where if we put them away early, probably roll over and maybe call it good, and we feel good going into Oklahoma. But like I said, if we're going into halftime or if we're ending that third quarter and it's within 10 points, I don't feel so good about it.
And that's an interesting – go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was just saying, I feel a little bit better, I think, than Josh does at this point because they've got such a brand new coaching staff there, a lot of turnover on their roster. So, I think that they're right now trying to figure out what they actually have when they haven't even started their fall camp yet. I think Nebraska's already going to be tuned up playing a conference game to start off with and stuff. I don't think I see that this team overlooking a Buffalo in any kind of chance. But, like Josh said, anything could happen.
Josh, I found it kind of interesting what you threw out there in regards to, and I know it's just an estimation, but I'm always thinking of these kind of comparisons when you're talking, until proven otherwise, you're talking a mid-tier Big Ten team right now against a upper echelon, near the top MAC team, and just kind of throwing out, I know you're just ballparking it, but like 4 to 5 guys on each side of the ball that, boom, if they stepped on the field for us, boom, they'd be starting or getting significant minutes, or they'd be a factor. And then there's probably the other half of the offense or the defense that, the guys could come in and be program players and help us out, but they're probably third teamers.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it is. That's a lot, a thing for a lot of guys. And I've met people from, really small schools like Weber State and, the Citadel and things like that. And I'm like, you could have been a walk-on here and probably played your last 2 years, and probably gotten in that rotation somewhere. There's a lot of good players out there. And, it's to earn a – that's why our walk-on program is so great, because there's a lot of guys that'll blossom late, in their last 2 years and could turn into be scholarship guys. We see it every year. Guys earn scholarships, and they've got – great careers. We've had plenty of them. Brandon Riley was a South Dakota State guy. And just turned out to be awesome. So that's all these schools. Instead of walking on here, they decided to go to Buffalo because they could get a little bit of money for it or whatnot. And then their last 2 years, they actually turned into pretty good players, and bang, boom, you got a Khalil Mack, So they've got good guys that they can fit in. But yeah, what you said, the difference is our other 5 guys can still play at this level, where their other 5 guys, they're going to be like our 3rd or 4th stringers. So just the depth of talent is where the big disparity is at.
Yeah, and you know what? Scott Frost was asked that question last Thursday about the walk-ons, about the number of the guys that are going to get offered scholarships that are current walk-ons right now. And, that's a big thing here. Josh knows about it. When his brothers when their brothers get a scholarship offered to them, it is such a huge thing in the locker room for a walk-on guy that contributes just as much as a scholarship guy does. It's a huge deal, and Nebraska's going to 5 or 6 guys probably going to get that here. Guys that could have gone to play somewhere else and have their college paid for, but they wanted to come to Nebraska because they believe in Nebraska football, and it's what they've always wanted to do. So, I mean, you think about what was that class? That class behind you, I think it was Josh, in the Shrine Bowl that had Brandon Riley, it had Sam Foltz, it had Dylan Utter, it had Andy Janovich.
Nope.
I can go on and on about all these guys that were walk-ons that are played NFL and guys that could have played in the NFL. And I mean, it's crazy. It's a huge deal around here.
It is, and it's not really a thing anywhere else in the country. I mean, you hear a couple guys here and here. I know Hunter Renfro was a big walk-on name for Clemson, and he did good. But I tell people how many walk-ons we have on the team, and they're like, "Geez, like normally we have, a handful, but majority of our classes that come in are almost walk-on. It's all walk-on heavy, and
25 to 30 a year almost."
Yeah, it's a
double class.
It's massive. And honestly, it's a good kind of a simulator for the scholarship guys that come in, because they get to come in and all of a sudden they're, 5 guys got a lake up in Ashland, or they take them back to their hometown and go to check days, or just things like that. They get, immersed in the culture right away, rather than going somewhere where you don't have a whole lot of local guy walk-ons. You're just kind of amongst yourselves and you stay on campus and you don't get the real feel of the city. You got to go do it on your own. But you got all these guys that just show you the whole hole in the walls. It's a good little recruiting tool, kind of, but they don't really know it's a good one.
And it's interesting what you throw out there about playing some of those teams that you're supposed to beat, because what's going through everybody's mind, and it's the people in the stands, it's the media, it's the folks at home that are like throwing up their arms when you're in a 17-14 game at halftime with somebody like that, and like, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? What's going on? And they're not the ones on the field that actually, those guys lift weights too, and they run and they work out all year, and they watch film, and they get scholarships too, and they care too. So
Right.
They're going after it too. So it's easy to sit up here in the stands or watch on TV and be like, what's wrong with these guys?
Yes, Coach Banker always said that. He and not all coaches do that, but if a play happened, he's like, well, they're on scholarship too. Like you said, they're big and strong. So you're trying your best, bud, but you lost. That's why it's a game. And I always hated it when coaches would say, if we execute 100%, there's no way we can lose. Duh, right? They're saying the same thing. It just doesn't work like that. It's a game. So yeah, fans are a little finicky sometimes. If one thing goes wrong, then the whole world's done. That's why defense is. I was talking to Coach Els the other day, and his son is he's a grad assistant up there right now, and he's getting into it. And Coach Els is like, I really want him to be on offense. I don't want him on defense, because on defense you're on the edge. One play and you're just the worst coordinator, the worst linebacker, DB ever. But on offense, you got all kinds of mulligans. As long as you make the one catch, you're great. You're amazing. They forgot about the 5 other drops or the fumbles.
It's somebody else.
Yeah, no, defense is tough, man, and we get a bad rap all the time.
I think, and I think Josh has got more kind of a different perspective than most people. I mean, yes, he's a former player, but his dad played for successful teams, and that Nebraska fans expected to see. And, in Josh's time, he was kind of expected to okay, here, I'll do it since I'm wearing it, and I'll stand up. But, restore the order. Remember that? Remember that shirt?
Yeah.
That was Coach Callahan, but still, Josh has that perspective of where he could have been he was a fan, and then he's a player, and then he's hearing that backlash when things don't go so well. And unfortunately, we've been in this kind of a cycle for a long time, and obviously, who gets blamed for it? The players or the coaches, and even us in the media. So, it's a fine line, but Josh has a very unique perspective on all of this that I think everybody should be aware of.
Yeah, and you can tell I'm fascinated because I keep spitting out the questions that are player related because the fan and the media perspective versus what's really going out on the field.
And
So
his little brother is a walk-on player here as well. He was, and so he has all those three different perspectives.
So my last one for you, Josh, before we better get to the questions that the people are asking, is so I'm sure that there were those games where you're there in the fourth quarter and you guys have a 6-point lead and you're like, why aren't we killing these guys? We're so much better than them, but just things aren't going our way and they're hanging in this thing. Then if truth be known, I'm guessing that there would be less examples of this because you guys are athletes and you have supreme confidence that you're the better team most of the time and so forth. But there's probably a couple times where you were like, we're hanging in this game and how are we doing it? These guys are really good, but we're there, but man, we're close to getting blown out.
I think that's kind of a universal truth in a lot of competition. Because it could be, I mean, you could be playing ping pong and you're better than your little brother. And you're like, I'm giving 100% here, but he's still hanging in there, but I'll turn it on in a second. And, he ends up hanging around and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. You feel like you're in control. But yeah, we've definitely been on the other side where we're like, it feels like we're getting blown out here, but we're only down by 3 or we're up by 3 and you're hanging on by a thread. There's been a lot of, that's in every kind of competition there is. Just that momentum, I guess, it's a real thing. We're like, this team is absolutely dominating. How are they losing? Right? We've all seen it. We've all been a part of it, and you hope to hold on, or you hope it's you almost don't even feel worried about it. It was kind of like when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. San Francisco dominated the whole game, and it still felt like the Chiefs were in it. And like, how are we only down by this? So it's a phenomenon for sure. And I've been on both sides of it, but sports are just a weird thing, man. The one thing that I never liked about it, like when we were in games like that where they're hanging around and everybody thinks, or that we're way better, and on paper we are way better, and the coaches were the worst. Like, do you think I'm trying to do bad here? Like, I'm trying to do good. And when a coach or a fan is like, what's he thinking there? Like, you got to make that tackle. It's like, I tried. I was fully 100% about doing the correct thing. It just, sometimes it doesn't happen. And, you can't just beat on everybody about it. But it's not really the world we live in anymore. It was nice when there was no Twitter and, if you didn't hear the murmur in the stand, then you didn't hear it at all unless some guy knew where you lived and sent a handwritten letter. Right, and then at least he put some thought into it.
Yeah, no more keyboard tough guy back in those days.
Right, yeah, at least write his handwriting in his return address.